Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Harold Porte Podcast. I'm your host, Harold Porte. Last week, we broke down UFC 317. I had some bad luck in that card. Went 3 and 4. I don't think our thought process was wrong, but the outcome did end up being wrong in some of the fights. We were able to get Benil Dariush as a slight underdog at the time against Renato Moicano. But moving on to this week's card, we have UFC Fight Night Nashville. Lewis versus Teixeira. I'm gonna be breaking down the card, giving you guys some of my predictions, some bets. So without further ado, let me dap you guys up and let's get into it with the prelims and Kennedy, the African Savage Nezuchuku versus Walter, the Clean Monster Walker. Kennedy is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, whereas Walter is 4-1. Kennedy is a minus 240 favorite, whereas Walter Walker is a plus 185 underdog. Kennedy is 33, whereas Walter's 27. So, keys to victory for this fight. I think if Kennedy can maintain his range with teeps, jabs, and even use uppercuts and knees the body when Walter tries to close the distance, I think you can find success. Whereas for Walter, I think his striking isn't good for the UFC level. In his first fight against Lucas Brzeski, who Kennedy just knocked out in the first round of his last fight, he struggled on the feet and he found success in the wrestling. So I think with this fight, Walter's gonna have to take the fight to the ground, maybe find a submission if it presents itself. But I think Kennedy's able to defend most of the takedowns. At 6'5", I like his length to be able to use his jab and his straight shots. And I think Walter's not really gonna trouble him on the feet. So with this fight, I'm gonna say Kennedy Nizuchuku is gonna win this fight. I'm gonna say by a round 1 knockout. Moving on next, we got Jake the Celtic Kid Matthews versus Chidi Bang Bang and Jokuani. Jake Matthews is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, whereas Chidi is 3-2 as well. Jake Matthews is a slight underdog at minus 105, whereas Chidi is a slight favorite at minus 120. Jake is 30, almost 31, whereas Chidi's 36. Chidi's gonna be 6'3", Jake is 5'11". Chidi's gonna have a 70-inch reach advantage at 80 inches compared to Jake at 73. So with this fight, we have Jake Matthews, who's likes to keep the fight on the feet primarily. He's a good boxer. And then we got Chidi and Jokuani, who's a good kickboxer, has really good length for this division. He was at middleweight formerly, but he moved down to welterweight to kind of balance out the strength advantage. But he does struggle with guys who can take him down. And I think Jake has solid wrestling, but he doesn't really use it that often. If he does use his wrestling in this fight, I think his odds of winning will go up drastically. I think on the feet it will be competitive. Maybe you could say Shida could keep him at range, but I think Jake is gonna have opportunities to find good shots, use his boxing, find counters on Chidi. But with this fight, as a slight underdog, I think I'm a favor Jake Matthews in this one. I saw the line like earlier this week. I think Chidi was like a minus 230, but the line has gone down since. I think the market agrees with me that Jake has more passive victory in this fight. although Chidi has looked impressive, he knocked out Alessis dos Santos his last fight, who's like a really good welterweight like gatekeeper. But I'm gonna say Jake Matthews will win this fight. I'm gonna say by 29-28 unanimous decision. Moving on to the main card, we got Junior the Juggernaut Taffa versus Tuco Tokos. Junior Taffa is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, whereas Tuco is 3-2. Junior's gonna be a slight favorite at -180, whereas Tuco's is a slight underdog at +140. Tuco is 35, whereas Junior's 28. And Tuco's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage at 76 inches compared to Junior at 72. So I think this is Junior Taffa's first fight in the light heavyweight division in the UFC. He's been fighting at heavyweight his first few fights. And I saw Tuco's last fight against Navajo Sterling where he was able to show off his granite chin. He didn't really like land anything significant against Navajo. He was pretty much getting pieced up for 3 rounds. But I think to beat a guy like Junior Taffa, who's a former glory kickboxer, I think you need to bring the fight to the ground. You have to be able to control him or find a submission. But based off what I've seen from Tuco, I don't think he's that type of fighter. So I think Junior Taffa is able to use his kickboxing, use his jab, leg kicks. But Junior does have bad leg kick defense, so maybe Tuco could take advantage of that. But I think with this fight, I think Junior can win by decision. I'm going to say like 29-28, maybe 30-27. I think he's going to outstrike him on the feet. And I think he's going to get the win this one. Moving on next, we got Nate the Train Landwehr versus Morgan the Last Pirate Charrier. Nate the Train has a record of 18 wins and 6 losses, whereas Morgan the Last Pirate Charrier has a record of 20 wins, 11 losses, and 1 draw. They're both 3-2 in the last 5 fights, and they both lost their last fight. So Morgan Charrier is a -250 favorite, whereas Nate the Train's a +195 underdog. And he's also 37 compared to Charrier at 29. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage at 72 inches compared to Charrier at 69. So with this fight, I think in order for Charrier to win, I think he's going to have to maintain distance, use his straight shots, and try to keep it clean against Nate. Whereas for Nate, I think he's going to have to muddy it up, close distance, get inside to Charrier, get into boxing range, and let those combos and those hands fly. And I think he can even find some takedown opportunities against Charrier. I think he can find success in that department. And I think he has more ways to win this fight, whereas if Charrier is going to win, it's probably going to be by decision on the feet. I don't see him knocking out Nate the Train Landwehr, even though Nate, he does get hit a lot. I think he has a granite chin. It's a good chin. And I think he's going to be able to find success in this one. And I'm going to say Nate the Train Landwehr is going to win this fight. I'm going to say by a 3rd-round knockout. Maybe Charrier starts to slow down due to Nate's pace, and Nate just finishes in round 3. So I'm going to say Nate the Train Landwehr by a 3rd-round knockout. Moving on to the featured bout of the evening. We got Calvin the Boston Finisher Cater versus Steve Mean Machine Garcia. So, Calvin Cater is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, whereas Steve Garcia is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Calvin Cater has a record of 23 wins and 9 losses, whereas Steve Garcia has a record of 17 wins and 5 losses. Steve Garcia is the slight favorite at -140, whereas Calvin Cater's a slight underdog at +115. Cater's 37, whereas Steve Garcia is 33. So with this fight, we have Calvin Calvin Kattar, who in his last fight against Yusuf Zalal, he started to pick it up in round three, and in rounds one and two, he was getting pieced up from distance. But over his recent fights, he's been struggling. He's been looking gun shy, and he does have a tendency to get taken down and controlled by grapplers like an Aljamain Sterling. But Steve Garcia, he's on a 5-fight knockout streak, and he has solid jiu-jitsu. He has solid wrestling. I think he can keep it competitive on the feet with Calvin Kattar. I don't think he's gonna be able to knock him out and extend his streak to six, but I think he can take down Calvin and control him, or even find a submission. I'm gonna say a decision is more likely for Steve in this fight. I think the age is gonna come into play. Calvin is approaching retirement age for the lower weight classes. You don't want to see the guy that's like 35 and above, typically like welterweight and lower. So with this fight, I'm gonna say Steve, the Mean Machine Garcia, is gonna extend his win streak, and I think he's gonna beat Calvin Kattar. I'm gonna say by decision. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we have Stephen Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. Stephen Thompson is one of the best strikers in the UFC, whereas Gabriel Bonfim is an up-and-coming prospect. He's known for his well-rounded game. He has good striking, good jiu-jitsu, and good wrestling. Stephen Thompson is 17-8-1, whereas Gabriel Bonfim is 17-1. Stephen Thompson is a plus 300 underdog, whereas Gabriel Bonfim is a minus 420 favorite. Stephen Thompson is 42, whereas Gabriel Bonfim is 27, about to turn 28. And Stephen Thompson is going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. So with this fight, I think if Stephen Thompson can keep the fight standing, I think he's able to outpoint Gabriel to a decision like 29-28 or something like that. I think he's gonna be too fast for Gabriel. I think his striking is too slick. He has great head movement, light on his feet, good straight shots, good kicks. But if Gabriel can take the fight to the ground, implement his grappling control, we've seen that Stephen Thompson tends to struggle against grapplers like a Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad, a Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I think Gabriel has good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, as I said before. So I think Gabriel can win this fight. I'm gonna say by 29-28 unanimous decision. I think if Steven was younger, I think he'd have a better chance of winning this fight, but I'm gonna go with the younger guy. I'm gonna go with the guy who's on a win streak right now. I'm gonna say Gabriel Bonfim is gonna win this fight. Stop. In the main event of the evening, we got Derek the Black Beast Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira. Derek Lewis is 28-12, whereas Taliesin Teixeira has a perfect record of 8 wins and no losses. He's 5-0 in the last 5 fights, whereas Derek Lewis is 2-3. Teixeira is a minus 260 favorite, whereas Lewis is a plus 200 underdog. Lewis is 40, whereas Teixeira is 25. Teixeira doesn't have a 4-inch height advantage at 6'7" compared to Lewis at 6'3", and he's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage at 83 inches compared to Derek Lewis at 79 inches. So with this fight, we have an old vet in the heavyweight division in Derek Lewis versus an up-and-comer in Teixeira. This is his second fight in the UFC. He started off on the Contender Series. In his Contender Series fight and his UFC debut, I think he won those fights, but he did show that he has a tendency of getting hit. He doesn't have the best defense. And one thing we know about Derek Lewis is if Derek Lewis touches you, you're going out. So I think Lewis's experience being in the heavyweight division for years, 12, he has fought the likes of Alexander Volkov, Cyril Gahn, the former heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. He's been in there with guys like that, and those guys have had difficulty on the feet with Derek Lewis. So, well, Cyril didn't, but for the most part, he does himself well on the feet. But I think, based off what I've seen from Towson, I think Derek Lewis will be able to knock him out in the first round. If Towson is going to be able to win this fight, I think he has to implement his wrestling, try to control Derek Lewis, or find a submission. But I'm not sure how good his missions and like jiu-jitsu quite is. But I know he's won one fight by converted like armbar. But I'm gonna say Derek Lewis. I think Towson's gonna try to keep the fight standing. I think he's gonna get caught. So Derek Lewis by a first round knockout in the main event. Moving on, I think I want to talk about some free agency moves that I've seen this week with NBA free agency kicking off. The Milwaukee Bucks were able to sign Miles Turner in free agency. That's the big loss for the Pacers as Miles Turner was the rim protector. He's a nice 3-and-D center, 3-and-D big. The Bucks did lose Damian Lillard to sign Miles Turner. They waived Damian Lillard. I think they extended like his contract, like spread out the years to be able to have Lillard sign with the team to like a more team friendly deal. I think that was a loss for the Pacers in that regard, not being able to retain Turner. And they have Halliburton, who's probably gonna miss the year with an Achilles injury. I think the Pacers are gonna be struggling next year. But I'm not sure if Giannis is gonna stay on the Bucks. I think he'll leave, but I wouldn't really say this is a. I mean, this is an upgrade in the defensive department for the Bucks, but they did downgrade it in the offensive department by losing Dame. But I don't think this really makes them championship contenders. But a team that I do believe will be contending for a championship is the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets were able to sign Bruce Brown, who he lost in free agency after the 2023 season. He was a main factor for them winning the championship in 2023 with his effort off the bench. I think he was averaging like 12 points in the playoffs. He was a great 3-and-D guard for them. Showed great hustle, but I don't think they should have let him go in the first place. But he's back in Denver, and that's going to help bolster the Nuggets bench, which has been one of their problems over the past couple of years, along with their defense. And I think Bruce Brown is going to be able to provide another jolt for them off the bench at the guard position, be able to run it up and down the court, facilitate a little bit, and take some pressure off of a guy like Christian Brown. Cam Johnson getting traded to the Nuggets for Michael Porter Jr., I think a first round pick in 2032 that's unprotected. I think with that trade, the Nuggets got better with Cam Johnson. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to stretch out the floor for Jokic, be able to knock down open threes. He is going to have a little bit more playmaking upside than Michael Porter Jr. too. We know Michael Porter Jr.'s nickname is Michael the Possession Ends Here Porter Jr. and Michael Don't Swing the Rock Porter Jr. for a reason. So I think Cam Johnson is also going to provide some defense for the Nuggets. When he was with the Suns, he was a really good 3-and-D wing. So I think with that addition, the Nuggets are further presenting themselves as title challengers for next season. And good luck to Michael Porter Jr. on the Brooklyn Nets. He has been sentenced to Brooklyn. I'm not sure if he's going to want to stay there. I wouldn't, but we'll see how that goes. Jordan Clarkson also signed with the Knicks and free agency. That's a solid depth piece for the Knicks. Clarkson's a good shot creator. He can facilitate as well. That's going to add to the Knicks able to fix their problem, which is depth. My Lakers signed DeAndre Ayton in free agency. It does kind of take care of our center opening, but I think Aiden will actually do well with our team. I like what I saw out of Aiden last year when he was with the Trailblazers. I think he's gonna be able to extend possessions with his offensive rebounding for us, and I think he is gonna be able to show he's more aggressive on a team that's competing for a championship. He is gonna be able to pair nice with Luka Doncic and LeBron in the pick and roll. Gonna be that vertical spacer, that lob threat, and I think we can make some noise with Aiden. He's not quite like a splashy do it all center that's gonna create his own shot, but I think with the guys on the perimeter that we got, like Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, plus LeBron who can facilitate, I think Aiden will be a nice fit for us, and I think he's gonna help us next season. The the Hawks got Kristaps Porzingis in a trade, and I think they also got Nikhil Alexander Walker, who's one of the best 3-and-D wings in the league, to a 4-year, $62 million deal. And they also signed Luke Kennard to a 1-year, $11 million deal. I think this is gonna be a nice little upgrade for the Hawks. Over like the last couple years, they've been like a play-in team at best. They haven't been able to quite break into the playoff picture, but I think after these moves, Kristaps Porzingis, Nikhil Alexander Walker, one of the best 3-and-D wings in the league, and one of the best shooters in the league, and Luke Kennard, I think they can position themselves for a playoff run next year. That'll do it for this episode of the Harold Porte Podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys do plan on watching UFC Fight Night Nashville, I hope you guys enjoy. And I hope you guys are also enjoying NBA free agency. It's been pretty crazy so far. But that'll do it. I hope you guys take care. I'll catch you guys on another episode of the Harold Porte Podcast. Peace.